First, we're going to take a look as an appetizer at I was a little rushed. I didn't look at the exact name of this, but basically there's the white women for Harris. It might be called that for all I know. They threw up something first, which I think might have inspired the white dudes. So this is from Hotspot, Nightmare Fuel. White women for Kamala. That's the name of it. Zoom call stresses the importance of using their white girl privilege to garner support for Kamala Harris in the 2024 election. So we're just going to look at a little of that, and then I have more footage of the white dudes for Harris.
Mrs. Frazzle, to her combined audience of over 1.5 million followers, is here to help gentle parent us through this election.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I am so honored to speak today. I am like shaking to just be among such incredible company. We are here because, as if you were here earlier, you've heard BIPOC women have tapped us in as white women to step up, listen, and get involved this election season. This is a really important time, and we all need to use our voices and influence for the greater good. No matter who you are all influencers in some way. So tonight, I'm going to share some do's and don'ts for getting involved in politics online and navigating the toxicity that comes with it. And spoiler alert, as much as the toxicity can come from the outside, it can come from us too. So first, don't isolate yourself. We can do our best work when we're in community together like we are tonight, because the toxic feels smaller when we support each other. But don't make it about yourself. As white women, we need to use our privilege to make positive changes. If you find yourself talking over or speaking for BIPOC individuals, or God forbid, correcting them, just take a beat. And instead, we can put our listening ears on. So do learn from and amplify the voices of those who have been historically marginalized, and use the privilege you have in order to push for systemic change. As white people, we have a lot to learn and unlearn. So do check your blind spots. You are responsible for your algorithm, believe it or not.
That is really painful. Okay, so
did you not see the inner smugness there, where they are literally talking down to black people and brown people and everybody across the rainbow? They're talking down, they're like, guys, you better do this and don't get out, and you're in charge of your own toxicity, and we gotta be together because it's not only outside, it's inside. And I'm banging my head against the wall. Hell, I'll just jump in the ocean. You talked about that scene where the actors were dealing with sharks. I'd rather go ahead and act out that scene being lost at sea than listen to another goddamn minute to her. Sorry, man, I ain't doing that.
It's a really good example of how completely disconnected this upper class is from the general public. Because look at all of this jargon. It is all so steeped in intersectionality and Robin DiAngelo and Ibram X. Kendi and anti-racism. These assumptions, just like any elite belief system, part of the purpose of it is to separate you from the general public. The fact that you're speaking a language, a code, a jargon that most people don't relate to, don't understand, that's not a bug, that's a feature. They like feeling superior to the general public. In terms of the core logic of a lot of this, yeah, there are people that I don't correct. They're children and people who are mentally impaired. I don't correct those people because I don't think that they are worth correcting, because they're children and they're mentally impaired. When you treat people that way, as you were kind of intimating, that is extremely condescending, because you are assuming that these people cannot be corrected. Now, I know what their response would be is, no, I'm recognizing the limitations of my experience, and I don't want to speak over that person's lived experience. All right, so that's the postmodern element in this, the notion that discourse theory, that reality is constructed by language and there is no knowable objective reality. Okay, well, fortunately for you, the reason airplanes, unless they're built by Boeing, generally work the way they're supposed to is because there actually is an objective reality that millennia of scientists experimented to finally result in that jet that you get on without a second thought, again, unless it's Boeing.
Yeah,
And
this is
just
Boeing.
go on your merry way to your destination, because in fact, math and equations and physics, they actually work. They actually work. What we're doing right now is possible because there's an objective reality that allowed people to create computers and the internet and so on. Now you're going to say that doesn't apply to social reality. Why? Why doesn't it? Why doesn't it apply to social reality? Why is there no objective truth in social reality? We warmed you up with the white women for Kamala cringe. Now we're going to get into the heart of darkness. White dudes for Kamala cringe. So we'll stop and go as we go.
Oh God,
it's pretty bad. So
it's gonna hurt.
So let me give some credit. This is kind of an unasked for collaboration between me and Brianna Morello. She did a supercut that saved me some time. So thank you. I don't know who you are, but I appreciate it. Saved me some time this morning. But there was some stuff I wanted to include that she didn't include that I cut in. So this is kind of a collaborative supercut between me and this woman that I do not know. All right, here we go.
Few years,
here we go.
I've been thinking a lot about men. We've been going around talking about this. I have a lot of questions from folks about why are we doing this? Why organize white dudes? And I'll start by really addressing the elephant in the room, which is a lot of people feel and felt uncomfortable about the call. And I think that's understandably so. Throughout American history, when white men have organized, it was often with pointy hats on. And so I think that discomfort, I think the skepticism is understandable.
I'm white.
Well, yeah, man, that is the way to really win over white people.
Yeah, that's
well, when white people organize, it's usually to burn a cross.
No, here's the thing. That guy said that. I'm wondering, dude, are you projecting your inner or maybe your inner bigotry? Because when people say stuff like that, that's how they feel internally. Like, get all these white liberals alone and they'll tell you how they really feel about minorities or different cultures. Okay, they're not as friendly and good as they make themselves out to be. And he says, yeah, I felt really uncomfortable. Why did you feel uncomfortable? If this is something that you love, you should be, I'm really excited to be promoting Kamala. We love Kamala, but instead I really feel uncomfortable.
Listen, man, if I were doing a parody of Democratic voters, you could not do better than that guy. And that applies to quite a few of the men that they got on this call. So Jeff Bridges, Keaton is a big Lebowski super fan.
Oh,
so
no.
As I was watching this, as I was subjecting myself to this, I texted him. I said, I got bad news for you. He says, what? And I sent him the picture of Jeff Bridges on this call.
And Keaton despaired. How could you?
Yeah. Let's see what the dude has to say.
I'm white, I'm a dude, and I'm for Harris.
I'm not sure if you guys can recall that feeling you had on the night of Tuesday, November 8th, 2016.
I do.
I stood over my kid's bed and I wept.
White nationalists in MAGA, they want to speak.
Hey, he's not white.
Specifically as white men.
In the marginalized communities that educate me every single day, that this is a constant education for all of us.
Seen it with congressional leaders who have called Vice President Harris a DEI candidate. You're talking about a woman who was a great prosecutor.
Kamala is carrying on her shoulders 248 years of pain, of agony, of hope, of frustration. And no matter how high she jumps, no matter how many degrees she has, no matter how good her grades are, she's never good enough because they're always moving the line.
Over $2.5 million raised so far on this call. And we just got a note saying we have another match in Director and producer J.J. Abrams just told us that he's willing to give a $50,000 match.
What a variety of whiteness we have here, with like a rainbow of beige.
What?
Speaking of white dudes, the Pod Save America guys have a great, very easy way called Vote Save America for you to get involved.
Good point, Charles. Yeah.
Hey, how does this white dude get to be on a call with like the Secretary of Transportation, with, you know, Jeff Bridges, the coolest dude in the world? And I went, you know what? Nothing screams white dude more than a construction union. But man, I am scared to death of what the future could look like if we go back to another Trump administration, one that truly left working construction white men behind.
Of course, men are also more free in a country where we have a president who stands up for things like access to abortion care.
Let's be clear about who Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are.
Oh, God, not Pritzker.
Donald Trump is a 34-time convicted felon, an adjudicated rapist, and a congenital liar. He's a fraud. And J.D. Vance is his mini-me. I even created my own cognitive test that describes the two of them. Sofa, dolphin, shark, cats, convict.
Real men respect women, their decisions, their careers. And it's pretty clear that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance don't.
And Joe Biden.
President, man. How exciting.
If there is a God, she's a terrible writer.
One day, we all will be asked what we did to stop this MAGA movement. What will your answer be?
Imagine standing there on Inauguration Day as I get to sit next to my daughters and listen to our first Madam President speak. That is the thing that I want you all to imagine tonight. That is the thing that has brought us all here. And that is the thing that, unlike last time, we are going to make sure happens.
I hear J.D. Vance trying to talk about what a small town is. There's one golden rule in a small town. Those of you who are from a small town, mind your own damn business. We don't need it. I don't know who's asking for this crazy stuff that they're pushing. Who's asking to ban birth control? Who's asking to raise the price of insulin? I'm a Legion Club member, and none of the dudes there are asking to cut veterans benefits like Project 2025 does.
Just take a moment once again just to thank Joe Biden for what he did in passing the torch, and how much we appreciate that. And can you just imagine a president of the United States who puts the country before himself?
After about, I don't know, 2 or 3 years.
Okay, I'm gonna pause
Sam,
for a second here.
Sam, not you, Sam. Did you put the ring on?
Okay, this guy is really off the beam. I cut in a lot of him because he's nuts. Okay, the only one who made any sense was I forget his name now. The guy who says who's asking for this stuff with the IVF. I think that's a good line of attack, as I've said, because that is nuts. That was one of the only speakers who had you know who else was okay. I didn't cut in his thing because it's complicated, but the guy who played Robin in the last Batman movie.
Oh, he was here too. Oh, wow.
What's his name?
Yeah.
Gordon
Levitt.
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah. Him.
He actually, I guess his father was a businessman, and he talks about the different kind of businessmen as, you know, you got the type who is a fair dealer, and then you got the con man, and the con man can actually make a lot of money, but they screw all their vendors. That's not an incorrect assessment of Trump. I always say this, being from New York and the kind of neighborhood where there are a lot of construction people with, you know, general contractors and stuff. Mm-hmm. I knew long before Trump got into politics, when I was a teenager in the 80s, he had a reputation. You don't want to work for Trump because he won't pay you.
Yeah.
So,
and he was always cut corners. Like there was a documentary about how his casinos went under and a few other things too. Like he would cut corners on every single thing because he was just that cheap, and he didn't care. He didn't care. I mean,
I thought that was one of the few sane arguments, but you can see it's, imagine electing a woman. This is what I mean. It's the apotheosis of election as expression of aesthetics and lifestyle branding.
It's trying to
It
make
is
Hollywood
an
real.
election. It's Lululemon. It's
Mhm.
Lululemon. I wear Lululemon. I read the New York Times. It's aesthetic. Like they don't even care that this person was not voted for, was being talked about as just a horrible, horrible politician, even by Democrats, until they made her the nominee, and now she's the greatest thing. All criticism of her is misogyny. This has been the greatest administration for labor ever. That comes up a few times. You had that labor leader talking about how nothing says white guy like a construction union. I know quite a few people in the building trades who are not white, so maybe he lives in a very white part of the country.
You know what I
But
got a problem with?
it's
It's just
mostly identity politics.
and it's also this idea of projecting like, oh, this is the Hollywood movie. We're gonna be there historically for the feeling, not
feeling.
yes,
Right.
but
Yep.
never the idea of, hey, is this person qualified to sit on the throne? Because if they're not
Right.
qualified to sit on the throne, your daughters might look back at you and say, that was the worst day of our life. She was the worst president, and mom says that you're not our father. So there you go. Okay, that was mean. That was mean. I shouldn't say that, but come on, crying. Where were you? How did you feel on 2016 on election night? Well, I was laughing my ass off at TYT when they were having their meltdown. That was great. My only regret, I wasn't cooking myself a nice dinner. I just only had a slice of pizza, and that was it. That's my regret. And what did you do to stop MAGA? You know what? What didn't I do? I mean, I gave my fair share of warning to progressives and Democrats that if they didn't get their act together, they were going to get their asses kicked. It's not my fault that you're having panic attacks. It's not my fault that they're projecting their fears. And all what this is a self-help group to try and make people feel guilty and also tone police everybody.
You want to hear self-help and therapy?
Oh no.
Sean Astin. Yeah. Let's just listen to it.
Of him regularly coming, he had moved back to be with my dad on the East.
All right, so he's talking here about his brother had a drug problem.
Okay.
And joined a men's group.
Oh.
After about, 2 or 3 years of him regularly coming, he had moved back to be with my dad on the East Coast, but regularly coming back, and you'd kind of be like, oh, do you have work? Like, what's going on? He was always coming back to be with his men's group. I think they had more than white men in that group. The idea that men can gather to talk about how we feel. Interesting. Kamala Harris smiles. She laughs. She dances.
Oh, God.
She has joy. She's alive. And they try and ridicule her for that. And they try and undermine us for that. This is a serious person.
I tell people is you don't have to read all 900 pages, but Google Project 2025. It's more terrifying than anything that Edgar Allan Poe or Stephen King ever wrote. The idea of firing 50,000 civil servants and putting in loyalists who, the prerequisite is you have to believe that the 2020 election was stolen.
They're trying to deal with the fact that they've got a big bowl of shit to sell to the public.
Yeah.
So they're trying to deflect the well-known criticisms of her. So she did an interview talking about how her mom had a big laugh, and I used to see her and her friends having this big laugh. Nobody has a problem with her laugh. It's the context in which she laughs, like locking up parents.
Yeah.
Did your mother and her friends laugh at the idea of locking up poor parents for their children's truancy? Was that the kind of thing they were laughing about over their coffee clutches? Because I doubt it. The criticism is not the laugh. It's what the laughter tends to be focused on and how deeply inappropriate, weird, and off-putting that behavior is. But you can see they're dispensing with policy. They're entirely dispensing with substance. They, as far as I can see so far, they're framing this as an opportunity to redeem yourself for 2016 for letting Hillary down, for not doing the right thing by Hillary. Here's your chance to make up for it by this is a do-over. We're going to have the first woman president, and she's going to not be a white woman even. So even better than if Hillary had won. That's their pitch, man. They say she's got great policy. They don't say what they are. They try to address her record as a prosecutor by making it a positive without ever getting into the details of it. You can see pretty clearly where they're going to go. They're just going to go full id poll, man. They're going to go full identity politics. If you don't like Kamala, you're a sexist and a racist. And we have to do this because we messed up in 2016, and this is our chance to have a do-over. This is Rocky 2, right?
This is
where she wins at the end.
Well, she doesn't deserve my vote because guess what? She hasn't earned it. And this whole idea of revenge or getting back or doing it right, you have to look at why Hillary failed. You have to look at why Kamala failed in her first primary run. It's because they're not charismatic. They are not popular. They have clearly a long history of not only abuse of power, but corruption. And people, thankfully, still have their sense of smell. Now, unfortunately, there's this massive Hollywood moment, or this honeymoon moment, in which Kamala Harris is being gifted by Hollywood, by the corporate media, by the Democratic establishment, and by Vote Blue no matter who sycophants. But you can only cover this for so long, because Kamala's actions, and especially how she composes herself, especially during a debate or anything else, it is extremely questionable. And you can have all the white guys up there. That's not going to make me feel guilty about criticizing Kamala. And I don't care if they say like, oh, well, you're a bad man or you're helping contribute. No, I'm not. You know who's helping contribute to the rise of Donald Trump? It was the Democrats. You want to know who's helping contribute to the rise of all the criticism towards the liberal Democrats? It's the liberal Democrats themselves. Okay, yep. Democrats did this to themselves, and you have to live with it. It's either you learn from your mistakes or you keep making it over and over again and deflecting and blaming. Democrats, you're acting like addicts. You're trying to find excuses so you can get that next big hit. What? The next big hit is the first black woman to be president. Are there qualified black women to be president? Absolutely. Is Kamala one of them? No, because she has a history of corruption. She is as neoliberal as it can get. And you got to look at corruption. It comes in just like evil, corruption and incompetence comes in many, many forms. And Kamala is one of them. She is one of those failures. Just because she fits all the identity boxes doesn't mean she's qualified, because actions speak louder than words. Don't give me statements. Show me your deeds. Show me your actions, not your words or false promises. I want to see something before you earn my vote. And Democrats, Kamala shows me nothing, just like how Joe Biden shows me nothing, just like Hillary Clinton shows me nothing. You have to earn it. If you can't earn it, then don't bitch at me when I don't vote for you.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're dispensing with all that. And they want to have an election, and perhaps partly because of what Keaton was talking about before, they want to have an election on a culture war basis. They don't really want to have an election about policy. They want to have an election about that I won in the parts of the country that are growing, where the GDP is highest. They want to have an election on that basis. They want the PMCs versus the MAGA troglodytes, and they think they can win over enough of the suburban white women and, kind of Mitt Romney Republicans. It was the same playbook as with Hillary. It's just they've gone to a new level of dispensing with the pretense of needing to run on substance. They're purely running on this is one gang in the country, and this is the other gang. And this gang likes mocha lattes and yoga classes. And this gang likes gun racks and abortion bans. And we're just going to fight on that. And we like our chances because we have all the urban centers, which are more numerous, more populous. And we think we can win that way. particularly with the abortion thing. The guy who, talking about the pointed hats, the host, when he continues, he talks about how white men basically turned out to too much of a degree for Donald Trump and not enough for Democrats, and this is the chance for white men to make up for it and do the right thing. Okay. But what white men that you don't already have does a pitch that starts with white men when they get together? It's usually for a Klan rally.
Yeah.
Who are you winning over? What white men are you winning that you don't already have?
Please clap.